Good evening, everyone. I am Chris Scott, the Enterprise Editor at The Sun. Thank you for tuning in to this latest edition of Sunspot. This is a fairly a significant edition. This is the 100th show, and with me today I have a very special guest. I haven't had this guy on before. I've had a couple of his colleagues on. Jack Clancy, the CEO of Enterprise Bank.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thanks.
It's great longevity.
It's great having you on to talk about the bank. A lot of things happening down there. We talk fairly frequently. We're talking off camera, though.
Okay.
I'd like to I should know this about you, but I don't.
Okay.
How long have you been at the bank? And what was your first position and the involvement that you've had? Now you're the CEO. That's pretty.
So I've been at the bank 31 years, and I actually started with George 7 months before he got the bank open.
Oh, okay.
I was 30 years old, so I guess you can do the math. And you know that I'm.
You do the math.
You know
You're the
that
banker.
You know that I'm 61 now, and I started as the chief financial officer of the bank, and it was just a wonderful opportunity. George and I had worked together.
I was going to say, how did you hook up?
We had worked together at First Bank. I went there when I was 27 as the chief financial officer, and George took me along with him, which was, you know, professionally was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, and just a tremendous thing for me personally also. And I got to be honest and say I just sort of put my head down and I worked, and I think George saw in me somebody that would really grind things out and get things to the finish line. And you know, I didn't totally comprehend when you're 30 years old. You know, it's hard to comprehend, you know, what George was doing, and you know, sort of the enormity of it. Right?
So over the course of the last 31 years, how has the bank evolved? And you know, I know you pretty well. I know George pretty well, and it seems to me that the same mindset that George had 31 years ago. He's still involved in the bank today. Right. He still has that, right? I mean, that's how the bank operates. Could you tell us about that?
You know, we try to keep it the same bank today that it was.
How so?
You know, 30 years ago, and you know, keep the same culture, the same values, the same behaviors, and it means that we have to talk about it a little bit more. When we opened the bank in early 1989, we had 18 people, and today we have 525 team members. So you have to talk about it, you have to work at it, but we have tremendous leadership in the bank, and I know you know a lot of the team at the bank, and we have a lot of widespread leadership, and you know, we're really trying to keep it the same bank that it was.
Do you feel that that's an important message for you to send? That you know, you're downtown, you have a nice office downtown, but that your employees, that the bank's employees need to see you out there, even if it's just to stop in, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. And I make sure our management team gets out, Chris, all the time, and you know, day after Thanksgiving, we'll do deliveries to every branch. Day before Christmas, you know, day before.
I get those chocolates.
Day before New Year's. So it's really important to, and you know where my office is. It's on the main floor, but I mean, I do it because I like to do it, Chris, and I love our people. I love our team members in the bank, and it's not something I have to force myself to do. It's something I really enjoy.
When the bank is looking at a potential new site, and not to get into the nitty-gritty details, but what do you look at? You mentioned Lexington. I know you're out in Fitchburg to the west. Your furthest east will be what, North Andover, right? What do you look at when you're trying to scope out a new location?
So you know, most of our branches are pretty contiguous to each other. I think we could get in a car right now and get to any one of our branches in
30 minutes?
30 minutes, any one of them. And so we look for that. We look for, you know, I mean, if you find the right people to hire, you could open a branch anywhere, you know. It doesn't even have to be a good location. You could open in a mobile trailer if you have the right people. So I would say, you know, the right people, you know, like in Lexington, we hired the branch manager before we signed a lease. Didn't have to do that in North Andover because we already have that surrounded. So, I mean, we love to be in urban areas, Chris, and we love to be where there's a lot of nonprofit activity. It's amazing, the branch that got to 100 million faster than any other branch in our 31 years is our Lawrence office.
No kidding. And where's the, oh, that's in the Sal's property, right?
Yeah,
On Merrimack Street.
yeah, right, in the Riverwalk.
Right.
And it just, there's a lot of businesses, there's a lot of professionals, there's a lot of nonprofits, and that's sort of in our wheelhouse.
I think this is important to touch on. I want to be cognizant of the time. The bank's affiliation with nonprofits.
Yeah.
I know that back in the day, George Duncan was very interested in all the nonprofits, particularly here in Greater Lowell. And I did some reporting on that.
Yeah.
But the bank has kept that up. The bank views the nonprofits throughout the valley and the region very important, and they need the bank's help, right?
Yeah, and I mean, we're only going to be as successful as our communities are and our nonprofits are. So, and it's a great learning experience for our team members also. But I think you could look at almost any significant nonprofit in any of our market areas, and we have someone on the board. Generally, they're in a leadership position, in many cases, they're the president of the board or the chairman of the board, or in very significant roles.
You encourage that with your employees?
Yeah, very much encourage it. And, I think it helps somebody grow also. I think of myself, some of my best friends I met, through nonprofit organizations that I've been involved with. And, that whole dependency between the bank, our team members, our customers, our communities. I mean, that's what George built the bank on. And I can tell you a quick story.
Sure thing.
I remember when I was with George before the bank opened, and he was raising capital. And if you remember, in '89, the economy around here was, it was a disaster. Probably as bad as it got anywhere in the country in the late '80s, early '90s was in this area in Lowell.
Do you remember the Friday afternoon bank closings?
Yeah, oh yeah. And I remember somebody said to George, what do you want to start a bank for this, in this environment? And George's simple answer was, I want to start a bank that'll be committed to its employees, to its customers, and to its communities for the long term. And he said, if you do that, you're going to survive in any economic
He's held
times.
true to that.
And he really has
you
held
and Dick and the
true
whole
to
team
that.
has, right?
Yeah.
We only have about a minute and a half left, so I know there's another important thing you want to talk about. And I find it fascinating too, the independence of the bank. Where there's been all these mergers and consolidations, and there's the big banks that are around, and then I know I recently moved some of my business to Enterprise, and I love coming in to see you guys. I can see you. I can see Sixto up at the Connector branch. You get something special when you go to a locally owned bank. Just tell us about your philosophy on that and why you think that's important for Enterprise to stay independent.
So, we're a very young bank. I mean, 30 years is pretty young for a bank. And Dick Main often uses the phrase that we're early in the first quarter, of the game that we're playing. And, first of all, it's a tremendous business strategy. Think about the strategy of being the last bank standing. It's almost like, trying to own all the land in Nantucket at some point. And, not an exact analogy, but it's a tremendous business strategy, to outlast all the competition.
Remember all the names? Andover Bank, Arlington Trust, Lawrence Savings Bank.
Oh yeah, and I'll tell you, banks, most of all, it's our commitment to our team members, and to our customers, and to our communities. Because when a bank sells, it's devastating.
Right.
For team members, it's devastating for customers, it's devastating for communities. I can tell you a lot of people bank with us because of our commitment to independence, and a lot of our team members came to us because we're so committed to independence. And
they know who their president and CEO is.
And George and Dick and myself and everybody in the bank, we have a relationship with each other that we just never want to sell the bank, and we are unequivocally committed to remaining independent.
I'm going to try to squeeze in one more question because I know you want to hit on this too. I still like to go to a bank. I mean, I can chat with you, talk to a few other people, right? But my wife will say, well, why don't you just get the app on your phone and do everything online? Where do you see banking heading as you open 2 more branches? I mean, do you think there'll always be the need for branches, or will so many people just do the banking on their phone?
I think there'll always be a need. It's different. And I think what your wife probably does on her phone is the standard routine type transactions.
Take a picture of a check.
Take a picture of a check,
deposit it.
Move money from one account to another. So we're finding that a lot of the routine transactions are going to the digital channel, they're going to mobile, but the human connection, I mean, when you have a problem, when you need to get a mortgage, when you have a technology problem, so I think the human, it's interesting that with all of this technology, the human connection is becoming more important. So it's different in a branch. If you walked in our branches now, the new ones that we built, you don't see a big teleline. You see a little pod, but you see a lot of office space where we're handling consultative transactions, you know, loan applications, technology problems, helping people. You know, not everyone's as adept as your wife, you know, at technology matters. Right. So it's different.
And all that fits in with the bank's overall philosophy about customers and convenience.
Yeah,
right?
It's amazing how much more human banking is becoming now. I mean, what you're taking out of the equation are the deposits and writing checks, which were much more the routine transactions.
Well, I could talk to you for about a half an hour. I wish we could fill the show on this. I think it's a great topic, and I think it's a great bank, and I really appreciate you coming in on short notice. Thanks, Jack. We'll
Congratulations on 100 shows.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for tuning into this latest edition of Sunspot. I don't know who I can bring back next to top the venerable Jack Clancy, but we'll keep it going. Have a good night, everyone.
And that's all for this edition of LTC News. You can find us on LTC channels 8, 95, and 99, online at ltc.org, on Roku in the LTC News playlist, or on Facebook at LTC Lowell. We leave you now with scenes of Nancy Salvage's hydro art installation at Utopia Park. I'm your host, Krista Brown. Thanks for joining us for 100 episodes.